Hello, welcome back to my channel, Astrobabushka. I am Irina and I'm a Vedic astrologer. I apply ancient, more than 3,000 years old knowledge to modern times. I'm in love with mundane astrology. I love astrocartography, outer planets, asteroids, and my new love is heliacal risings and how to interpret this heliacal risings based on my forever love, fixed stars. In this video, this is the video number 2 for new moon in December 2025. So let's go. First, as always, Aries risings. For this new moon on December 20th, this new moon activates your 9th house. This is the house of beliefs, truth, law, teachers, and the direction that gives your life meaning. What happens here is not superficial. It reshapes how you understand the world and your place in it. The sun and moon come together in Sagittarius, joined by Venus at 0 degrees Sagittarius and Mars at 9 degrees Sagittarius. So this creates strong emphasis on conviction and motivation. You may feel driven to take a stand, to speak openly, or to move towards something that feels aligned with your deeper sense of purpose. But this is not about optimism or expansion in the usual sense. This new moon sits close to the galactic center and aligns with the fixed star Atomine, the eye of the dragon. For Aries rising, this brings a moment of reckoning around truth. Not what sounds right, but what actually holds under pressure. Atomine is a watching star. It exposes weak points in belief systems and reveals where confidence has replaced clarity. Near the galactic center, it pulls you toward an unavoidable realization. You may suddenly see where you have followed an idea, a teacher, or a worldview that no longer fits your lived experience. The Venus at 0 Sagittarius highlights values and alliances. You may question agreements, friendships, or promises that were built on shared beliefs. Mars in Sagittarius energizes action, but it also increases impatience. There can be a strong urge to act quickly or to declare a position before everything is fully clear. This is where caution is needed. For Aries rising, Mars rules your chart. It's your Lagnesh, and when Mars is activated, your instinct is to move first and sort things out later. This new moon asks for the opposite. It asks you to pause and observe. The eye of the dragon rewards awareness, not impulse. The sun, ruler of the 5th house of creativity, expression, and personal authority, brings questions about what you truly stand for. The moon, ruler of your 4th house of emotional security and inner foundation, shows that these questions affect your sense of safety. You may feel unsettled if familiar beliefs begin to fall away. That discomfort is part of the process, so don't be scared. At the same time, Mercury in Taurus sits in your 2nd house of values, money and speech, forming a tension, Tau square with the lunar nodes across Aquarius and Leo. This suggests pressure around how you speak your truth and how it affects your material or emotional security. Words matter now. Statements made in a haste can have lasting consequences. You may feel torn between saying what feels right and protecting stability. Mercury here asks for careful thought. Speak simply, avoid exaggeration. Do not argue to win. Argue only if clarity is the goal. On a practical level, this is a powerful time for reevaluating plans related to education, legal matters, travel, or long-term goals. Something you believed was solid may reveal a flaw. That does not mean you failed. It means you are seeing more clearly. On a deeper inner level, this new moon tests discernment. Fear and certainty can sound very similar right now. Fear pushes you to defend, and truth allows you to adjust. So this period often brings a choice. You can double down on an idea because it feels familiar, or you can release it because it no longer aligns. The second path, of course, a bit quieter, but it leads somewhere real. For Aries, rising growth now comes through restraint, through listening more than reacting, through letting go of the need to be right in order to remain true. If something falls apart in the coming weeks, especially around beliefs, plans, or guidance you relied on, do not rush to replace it. Let the space remain open for a while. The purpose of this new moon is not to push you forward blindly, but to correct your direction so that when you move with integrity. This is a moment to choose clarity over speed, truth over certainty, and alignment over momentum. Taurus rising. The new moon, December 20th, activates your 8th house. This is not a light or casual area of life. It governs shared resources, power dynamics, trust, debt, inheritance, emotional entanglements, and psychological transformation. When a new moon falls here, something hidden moves closer to the surface. The Sun and Moon comes together in Sagittarius, joined by Venus at 0 degree in Sagittarius, and on the other side, Mars at 9 degree Sagittarius. This concentrates energy around matters you do not fully control. Other people's choices, financial ties, or emotional bonds may suddenly demand attention. This new moon sits close to the galactic center and aligns with a fixed star Atomine, the eye of the dragon. For Taurus rising, this combination points to exposure. Not public exposure necessarily, but revealing the motives, dependencies, or vulnerabilities that have been operating quietly for some time in the background. Atomine is a watching star. It brings awareness to weak points in structures that seemed secure. In your case, this can show where trust has been misplaced, where power is uneven, or where an agreement has relied more on hope than clarity. Venus, your chart ruler, sits at 0 degrees Sagittarius, and this is important. 0 degrees marks a threshold. It often feels unstable, unfinished, a bit weak. You may find yourself questioning a relationship, a financial arrangement, or a promise that once felt aligned, but now feels uncertain. Mars in Sagittarius adds to this pressure. It activates tension around control, boundaries, and truth. So conversations may become more direct. Situations may force decisions you have postponed. There can be a sense that something must be addressed now, even if it feels uncomfortable. This new moon forms a square to Saturn and Neptune in Pisces, which for Taurus rising occupy your 11th house. This brings friends, networks, long-term goals, and collective ideals into the picture. You may realize that a group, community, or future plan is no longer compatible with the deeper realities of your life. Promises made in idealistic moments may not hold under scrutiny. Saturn demands accountability. Neptune dissolves intuition, illusion. Together they test whether shared dreams are grounded or merely aspirational. At the same time, Mercury is in Taurus in your first house, forming a tense Tau square with the lunar nodes across Aquarius and Leo. This puts your voice, your self-definition, and your choices under pressure. You may feel pulled between maintaining stability and speaking the truth that could change the balance. Words matter now. What you say defines direction. Avoid silence born from fear, but also avoid speech driven by frustration. Choose something in the middle. The right words are simple, direct, and honest. On an emotional level, this new moon can feel intense. The 8th house often brings anxiety before clarity. You may feel unsettled without knowing exactly why. This is because something is shifting beneath the surface, and your instincts are picking it up before your mind does, or before it comes to the surface. This is not a time to cling tightly to control. It is a time to observe where control is an illusion. Financial matters, shared responsibilities, or emotional bonds may need restructuring. What is unequal or unclear will not remain hidden for long anymore. Spiritually, this new moon asks for courage to face dependency, courage to release what binds rather than supports, courage to trust that losing something false creates room for something real. For Taurus rising, growth now comes through honesty in entanglements, through redefining trust, through choosing depth over comfort. If something ends or changes shape in the weeks following this new moon, especially around money, intimacy, or shared goals, do not rush to repair it. Let the truth of the situation reveal itself fully. The purpose of this lunation is not to destabilize you, but to free you from arrangements that quietly drain your strength. What remains after this process will be simpler, cleaner, and far more aligned with who you are becoming. Next will be Gemini rising, and the new moon on December 20th activates your 7th house. This is the house of relationships, agreements, contracts, open rivals, long-distance travels as well. When a new moon falls here, the focus turns directly toward the people you are bound to and the terms under which those bonds exist. The Sun and Moon meet in Sagittarius, joined by Venus at 0 degrees Sagittarius and Mars at 9 degrees Sagittarius. This places strong emphasis on one-to-one dynamics. A partner's beliefs, actions, or decisions may take central stage. You may also feel compelled to reassess what you expect from others and what you are truly willing to offer in return. So this new moon aligns also with the galactic center and the fixed star Atomine, known as the Eye of the Dragon. For Gemini rising, this brings a moment of clarity around relationships that have been tested on assumption rather than truth. Atomine does not create drama, it exposes weak points. It reveals where balance, honesty, or mutual understanding has quietly eroded. Venus at 0 degrees Sagittarius highlights values and commitments. 0 degrees often marks instability or threshold. A relationship may reach a turning point where tensions must be stated clearly. Ambiguity will no longer work. On the other side, Mars in Sagittarius adds urgency and heat. Conversations may become direct, even confrontational, especially if something has been avoided. This new moon forms a square to Saturn and Neptune in Pisces, which occupy your 10th house of career, reputation, and public role. And this suggests tension between personal relationships and professional responsibilities. A partnership may strain under external pressure, or a public decision may affect private bonds. Saturn asks for accountability, and Neptune dissolves illusion. Together, they question whether the image you project and the agreements you maintain are aligned with reality. Something may need to be redefined so that expectations are realistic rather than idealized. Mercury, your ruling planet, right now it will be in Taurus in your 12th house, forming a tension Tau square with lunar nodes across Aquarius and Leo. And this suggests unspoken thoughts, withheld words, or private concerns influencing how you relate to others. You may know more than you are saying. Silence may feel safer than speaking, but it also creates misunderstanding. This is not a time to manipulate outcomes through clever wording. It is time for simplicity. Say only what is necessary, but say it truthfully. Avoid indirect signals. The eye of the dragon sees through them. On a deeper level, this new moon tests discernment in relationship. Are you responding to who someone truly is or to who you hoped they would be? Are agreements based on clarity or on fear and conflict? Or you may feel unsettled if a partnership no longer reflects your values or direction. That discomfort is information. Do not rush to smooth it over. Allow the truth to surface fully. So for Gemini, rising growth now comes through redefining connection, through choosing honesty over adaptability, through accepting that not every bond can move forward with you. If a relationship changes shape or ends in the weeks following this new moon, it is not a failure, it's a correction. What remains after this process will be built on a clear ground. This lunation asks you to meet others without illusion and to meet yourself without avoidance. That is where real partnership begins. Cancer rising, the new moon on December 20th activates your 6th house. This is the house of daily work, health, routines, service, and the ways you manage stress and responsibility. When a new moon falls here, life asks for adjustment at a practical level. Small changes now have long-term consequences. The Sun and Moon come together in Sagittarius, joined by Venus on one side at 0 degree and Mars at 9 degree on the other side. So this places strong emphasis on how you use your energy day by day. Work conditions, obligations, health, habits may reach a point where they can no longer be ignored. This new moon aligns with the galactic center and the fixed star Atomy, the eye of the dragon. For Cancer rising, this combination brings awareness to vulnerabilities, not as a threat, but as information. Atomy reveals weak points so they can be addressed before they become crises. You may notice where routines are draining rather than supporting you. Overwork, poor boundaries, or neglected health signals may surface clearly now. This is not about perfection, it is about honesty with yourself. Venus at 0 degrees, Sagittarius, highlights values tied to work and service. You may question whether what you give each day is returned in a meaningful way. Mars in Sagittarius adds pressure and urgency. There can be irritation around coworkers, deadlines, or physical fatigue. This new moon forms a square to Saturn and Neptune in Pisces, which occupy your 9th house of beliefs, guidance, and worldview. This creates tension between what you believe should be meaningful and what your daily life actually looks like. You may feel disillusioned if your work or routine no longer reflects your values. Saturn demands realism. Neptune dissolves idealized expectations. And together, they push you to ground your beliefs through action rather than fantasy. At the same time, Mercury is in Taurus in your 11th house, forming tension with the lunar nodes across Aquarius and Leo. This suggests pressure around commitments to groups, friends, or long-term goals. You may feel pulled between serving others and protecting your own stability. Communication matters now. Be clear about your limits, about your boundaries. Quiet resentment grows when boundaries are not spoken. On an emotional level, this new moon can feel draining before it feels cleansing. The 6th house often asks for discipline before relief. You may need to confront habits that have slowly worn you down. This is a powerful time for practical healing. Adjusting diet, sleep, workload, or daily structure can have lasting impact. Do not wait for crisis to make changes. Adamin warns through awareness, not punishment. Spiritually, this lunation asks for humility. True alignment shows in how you live each day, not only in what you believe. Service that costs your health is not sacred. Discipline without meaning becomes empty. For Cancer rising, growth now comes through self-respect in daily life, through choosing routines that nourish rather than deplete, through honoring the body as part of your spiritual path. If something shifts in your work or health over the coming weeks, treat it as guidance rather than disruption. The purpose of this new moon is to correct imbalance before it becomes damage. What you put into order now will support you far beyond this lunar cycle. Now for Leo rising, the new moon on December 20th activates your 5th house, and this is the house of creativity, self-expression, love, children, risk, and the way you claim joy and authority in your life. When a new moon falls here, the question is not what you do, but why you do it. The sun and moon come together in Sagittarius, joined by Venus in 0° Sagittarius on one side and Mars in 9° Sagittarius on the other. This brings strong emphasis to passion, inspiration, and the desire to live according to your truth. You may feel a surge of creative energy, attraction, or the urge to take a personal risk. But this is not carefree energy. This new moon aligns with the galactic center and the fixed star Atamin, the eye of the dragon. For Leo rising, this creates a serious test around authenticity. Atamin watches closely. It exposes where performance has replaced sincerity and where confidence has drifted into self-deception. You may be asked to look honestly at how you seek validation. Are you creating from inner truth or from the need to be seen? Are you taking risks because they are aligned with your truth or because they promise attention? Venus at 0° Sagittarius highlights matters of love and values. A romantic situation may reach a threshold. Something that felt exciting may now require clarity. Mars in Sagittarius adds intensity and urgency into this pot. Desire runs high, but so does impatience. Acting too quickly can lead to consequences that are difficult to reverse. This new moon forms a square to Saturn and Neptune in Pisces, which occupy your 8th house. This brings deeper emotional and psychological material into the picture. Intimacy, trust, shared resources may complicate matters of love and creativity now. Saturn demands accountability in emotional bonds. Neptune dissolves illusion around closeness and loyalty, and together they work they're testing you, whether what you give your heart to is grounded in reality or in fantasy. You may realize that a creative project, romance, or personal goal is tied to a deeper emotional dependencies than you expected. This is not, a punishment. It's more like an information for consideration. Now, Mercury in Taurus sits in your 10th house, forming tension between lunar nodes in Aquarius and Leo. And this puts pressure on your public role, career decisions, and long-term direction. What you pursue for personal joy must now align with what you are building professionally. Words spoken publicly carry weight. Avoid exaggeration or promises made to impress. Quiet consistency serves you better than dramatic declarations. On an inner level, this new moon asks you to redefine joy. Joy that depends on approval is fragile, and joy that is rooted on truth endures. There may be discomfort if a passion no longer feels pure, or if recognition does not come as expected. So do not rush to fill the gap. Let it reveal what truly matters to you now. So for Leo rising, growth comes through integrity of expression, through choosing what is real over what is impressive, through allowing your light to come from clarity rather than performance. If a romantic or creative situation changes shape in the coming weeks, see it as a correction, not loss. What remains will be stronger, more honest, and far more aligned with who you are becoming. This new moon does not dim your light, it refines it so it can shine without distortion. For Virgo rising, this new moon on December 20th activates your 4th house. And this is the foundation of the chart. It governs home, family, emotional security, inner life, and the psychological roots that shape your choices. When a new moon lands here, something shifts at the core. The sun and moon come together in Sagittarius, joined by Venus at 0 degrees Sagittarius from one side and Mars at 9 degrees Sagittarius in another side. And this brings attention to matters of home versus direction. You may feel tension between where you come from and where you are going, between this inner safety and your outer purpose. Now, this new moon aligns with the galactic center and the fixed star Atomine, the eye of the dragon. For Virgo rising, this combination brings a moment for deep awareness around emotional foundations. Atomine watches for weak points. It reveals where stability is assumed rather than real. You may suddenly recognize that a sense of security you relied on is no longer holding. This can relate to family dynamics, living situations, or inner emotional patterns that were formed long ago. What once protected you may now limit you. Venus at 0 degree Sagittarius highlights values connected to home and belonging. 0 degrees often feels unsettled. You may feel caught between attachment and the need for change. Mars in Sagittarius adds urgency, fiery energy. There can be impatience, irritation, or a strong desire to break free from an environment that feels restrictive. This new moon forms also a square to Saturn and Neptune in Pisces, which occupy your 7th house now of relationships and agreements. And this brings partners and close others into the picture. Emotional security and relationship expectations are directly linked now. Saturn asks for responsibility and realism in partnerships. Neptune dissolves illusion and idealization. And together they test whether your sense of safety depends too heavily on another person's presence, approval, or promises. You may realize that you have been carrying emotional weight for others at the cost of your own grounding, or that a relationship rests on unspoken expectations that no longer work. Now, at the same time, interesting that Mercury, your ruling planet, is in a Taurus in your 9th house, forming tension between with the lunar nodes across Aquarius and Leo. This puts pressure on belief systems, long-term plans, and your understanding of meaning. You may feel pulled between familiar emotional patterns and a new worldview that asks you to grow beyond them. Learning, travel, or exposure to a different perspective can challenge assumptions you once took for granted. On an inner level, this new moon asks you to redefine home. Home is not only place or family role, it's your inner condition. If your inner foundation is built on fear, obligation, outdated loyalty, it will not support your next stage of growth. There may be sadness or nostalgia as something familiar loosens its hold. Do not rush to replace it. Let the space show you what you actually need now. So for you, Virgo rising, growth comes through emotional honesty now, through releasing the need to manage everyone's stability, through building inner security that does not depend on constant control. If changes occur around home, family, or close relationships in the weeks following this new moon, see them as a correction rather than disruption. Something more truthful is trying to take root. This lunation asks you to strengthen your foundation, not by holding tighter, but by aligning it with who you are becoming.